Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Get Licensed to Build workshop. This is a free online workshop for those who want to get their California contractor's license. Our goal this morning is to go through all the parts of our license application and give you practical tips to help you complete it correctly. To give you every opportunity to demonstrate your experience and qualifications to get your California contractor's license. We will also help get you ready for your licensing exams and give you a link to a video that shows you exactly what to expect on your test date. Today's webcast is presented by the Contractors State License Board, the government agency responsible for regulating the California's construction industry. My name is Anna Rodriguez. I'm an enforcement supervisor, and we're joined today by Fode from our CSLB licensing department. Good morning, Fode.
Good morning. CSLB is overseen by a 15-member board that directs administrative policy for our operations. Our board is made up of 10 public members, including 1 labor representative, 1 local building official, and 1 representative of a statewide senior citizen organization, and 5 contractors. Appointments are made by the government and the state legislature.
Please note that after a 3-month closure due to COVID-19, CSLB test centers reopened in mid-June. We are working as quickly as we can to get through the backlog of exams that built up during that closure. We administer about 1,000 exams a week. One of the things that is making it tougher is that on any given day, between 10 to 20% of our applicants fail to show up for their exam. So as you move through the process, be sure you're good with your test date and write it down. Put it on your calendar. Please don't blow it off. Not only is that going to delay you getting your license, you're also going to help delay other applicants trying to get their license as well. If you are watching this right now on either YouTube Live or Facebook Live and want to participate, you'll need to join us on WebEx. There's a banner with a link on the top of our homepage, www.cslb.ca.gov. That is also where you can download the presentation to follow along. The presentation file includes clickable bonus links that appear on slides throughout this workshop. We are going to present a lot of information to you, so don't worry if you don't get it all. We will archive this video of the workshop and put it on our YouTube channel so you can go back and watch it again. To ask a question, you're going to want to use the Q&A feature on the bottom right of your screen. Make sure to send the questions to all panelists. That way we can all see it. Finally, we tend to get a lot of questions during these workshops on how you document your work experience and what credit you can get for your education or military service. Those questions are fine, but we would ask that you wait to send all of those questions until after you see that part of the workshop. We will go through your questions at the end of our presentation. The presentation takes about 45 minutes, and then after that, we will answer questions.
The information obtained during this webcast is not, nor is intended to be legal advice. While this webcast contains general information, including legal guidelines for contractor license applications, it does not contain definitive statements of the law and may not reflect the most current legal developments in the construction industry. Such guidelines communicated or discussed during the webcast are for informational purposes only. If you have questions about the application of the law for specific situations, you should contact an attorney who is familiar with California construction law or review the 2020 edition of the CSLB publication called California Contractors License Law and Reference Book. You can download it for free on CSLB website or purchase it directly from the publisher LexisNexis. There are links for both at the bottom of the screen.
So here's a list of what we are going to be covering today. We will take you through the process of applying for your California contractor's license. First, who needs a license? Then, why get a contractor's license? What are the minimum qualifications you'll need to get a license, and what credits you might qualify for? We're going to talk about the types of business entities, the different CSLB license classifications. We will spend a lot of time giving you tips to help fill out your applications, including how to demonstrate your work experience to meet minimum qualifications. We're going to talk about fingerprint requirements for a criminal background check, and we will help you get ready for your exam or exams that you'll need to pass in order to get your license. And finally, the other things you'll need to have in place before your license is issued, things like bond and insurance.
First, today we will take a look at who needs a license. Here in California, a state contractor's license is needed for all construction projects priced at $500 or more. That total includes both labor and materials. The law doesn't let you break down a project into $499 pieces. It's the entire project. Also, you can charge an hourly rate to get around the $500 threshold. If the hourly cost times the number of hours for the job totals $500 or more, you need a contractor license. So what is the definition of a contractor? The definition comes from the state's Business and Professions Code. In this case, it's section 7026.1. We have got the link to that code at the top of the page if you download the presentation. I will read the entire code, but pay special attention to the part we underlined. A contractor is any person, consultant to an owner building, firm, association, organization, partnership, business trust, corporation, or company who or which undertakes, offers to undertake, proposes to have the capacity to undertake, or submits a bid to construct any building or home improvement project or part thereof. In other words, you don't have to do the work to break the law. You must have a contractor's license just to advertise that you can do the construction work, or even to give a bid for a construction job if the bid totals $500 or more.
So you may be asking yourself, why should you get a contractor's license? Here are a few good reasons. First, you can take pride in being a licensed professional. It shows you've taken the steps to get licensed and that you are serious about your career choice. It allows you to make valuable contributions to your local community. Unlicensed contractors must operate in the shadows and cannot help make their community a better place to live. Next, it allows you to get paid for the work that you do. There is a value to the work done by a licensed professional. Being licensed also gives you legal options if customers don't pay you. Unlicensed contractors do not have a legal right to take someone to court to get paid because the work required a license and they weren't licensed to do the work in the first place. Also, you would be able to use the mechanic lien laws. Next, you don't have to look over your shoulder constantly for fear of getting caught. Contracting without a valid California license can lead to misdemeanor charges. Those caught face a first offense sentence of up to 6 months in jail and/or a $5,000 fine, and potential administrative fines anywhere in between $200 to $15,000. Subsequent violations can result in increased criminal penalties and fines. In addition, you may face felony charges if you contract without a license when one is required in a state or federally declared disaster area, or if you try to pass yourself off as a licensed contractor by illegally using a license number. Remember, there are no educational requirements to get a license. Also, you do not have to go to a license preparation school to get your contractor's license.
So, what do you need to get your license? First, it is important to understand that CSLB does not license individuals. We license companies or businesses, also called entities. Many entities are one-person operation, but note that every entity, even a one-person operation, must have a qualifier. That's someone who has the minimum experience and is responsible for the operations of the company. Here is the short list of minimum qualifications you will need. You must be at least 18 years old. You must have either a valid social security number or valid individual taxpayer identification number, ITIN. You can qualify the license in one or two ways. First, you can qualify the license by having at least 4 years experience within the last 10 years as a journeyperson, foreperson, supervising employee, or contractor in the trade being applied for. or you can also get a qualifier for the license who has that required experience. We will spend a lot of time talking about how you can demonstrate your experience on your application in a few minutes.
It may be possible for you to substitute your education, technical training, and apprenticeship training for some of the required experience. We tend to get a lot of questions on this. First, we want to be very clear. CSLB cannot prejudge your experience. Due to the number of applications we receive and process every month, we don't have the staff time that would be needed to prejudge your experience. We can only review your documents after you apply for your license. Next, to get education credit, the work must be directly related to the work you will be doing as a contractor. Your education cannot be substituted for more than 3 years or 36 months of the required experience, meaning you will need to have at least 1 year of practical experience if you get the full 36 months of educational credit. To apply for education credit, you must provide CSLB written documentation. That means we need a copy of your apprenticeship program completion certificate or an official technical school or college transcript. When you get those transcripts sent to you, you do not want to open the envelope. You want to leave it sealed and include it with your CSLB application packet. Note that high school courses will not earn you any credit towards your contractor's license.
If you are looking to get education credit to meet the 4 years or 48 months of experience, you will need to get your license. This is the most important slide of this entire workshop. This is the kind of credit you can expect to receive for your education. Note that for some areas, we are only giving you averages, or you will see that your credit will be determined on a case-by-case basis. We are not going to be able to give you any more guidance than what you see on this slide. So our best advice is do not rely on the combination of your experience and education credits to barely hit the 4-year experience mark. There is always the real possibility you will not get as much education credit as you were hoping. Let's go through the chart from the most credit you can get to the list. The most education credit you can get is for a Bachelor of Science degree in construction management. That degree will get you the full 36 months of credit. Next is master's or bachelor's degree in a business admin or a law degree. Any one of those will get you 24 months of credit. An associate degree in science, construction management will get you 18 months credit. A bachelor's degree in some major, in other majors will get you an average of 18 months credit. An associate degree in a major besides construction management will get you an average of 6 months credit. Credit for individual college classes are given on case-by-case basis, usually with a maximum of 6 months credit. Apprentice completion certificates will get you 24 to 36 months, depending on the classification of the program. For example, a sheet metal worker apprenticeship gets you 24 months credit if you're applying for C20 or C43, sheet metal classifications. A lineman apprenticeship gets you 36 months in C7 low voltage and C10 electrical classification only. If you have transcripts for other technical training you have taken, you might be able to get some minimal credit as well. Again, don't use your education credits to try and squeeze by the 4-year or 48-month requirement.
If you served in the military, some of that service might count as well. On the bottom of the page, you'll see a bonus link to our CSLB Military Application Assistance Program, where you can learn more. The license qualifier also must pass 2 different exams, both taken on a computer at one of our CSLB test centers. One exam is on the California Business and Law, and the other is specific to the trade covered by the license. We also have limited specialty licenses, which we are going to be discussing later. Those licenses only require that the qualifier take the law and business exam. As we mentioned, the qualifier is the one who must take and pass the required exams or qualify for a waiver. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about the waiver, only to note that you might be able to request a waiver from taking one or both of our exams if very specific situations occur. We recommend that you look at the CSLB website for more information on those specific situations. We have included a bonus link at the bottom of the page. The qualifier must also undergo the criminal background check. We will go more into depth on that in just a few minutes. After the license is issued, the qualifier must be in position to exercise direct supervision and control of the company's operations. They are also responsible for all workmanship issues. It is also important to note here that if you're trying to get a B general building contractor license and you hire subcontractors to work under you, you are responsible as a project's prime contractor for the work that they do.
The next thing you are going to need to determine before applying for your license is which type of entity your business will be. There are 4 types. First is the sole ownership, where the owner or responsible managing employee may serve as the license qualifier. Just about 2/3 of the contracting businesses in California are sole ownerships. Second, a corporation, where either of the current officers designated as the responsible managing officer or the responsible managing employee may serve as qualifier. Just under 1/3 of our licenses are corporations. A distant third is a partnership, where either of the general partners or a responsible managing employee may serve as qualifier. That's 2% of our licenses. Finally, a limited liability company or LLC, where a responsible managing member, responsible managing manager, responsible managing officer, or responsible managing employee may serve as qualifier. About 1.5% of California construction companies are LLCs.
Now let's talk about license classifications. A contractor's license can include multiple classifications, although you must select one when filing your application. While there are more than 48 license classifications in California, they all fall under 3 distinct categories. There is a bonus link in our classifications list at the bottom of the screen. First is Class A, or General Engineering Contractors. These are contractors who deal with fixed works that require specialized engineering knowledge and skill. A contractors are the ones that build projects such as freeways, skyscrapers, and dams. Today, there are just over 19,000 A contractors in the state. Next is our Class B, or General Building Contractors. This is the largest class of contractors in California, with more than 133,000. B contractors have a principal business dealing with any structure built, being built, or to be built that requires as part of its construction at least 2 unrelated building trades or crafts. In other words, a B contractor shouldn't take a prime contract for any project involving trades other than framing or carpentry unless the prime contract requires at least 2 unrelated building trades other than framing or carpentry. There is no limitation on B contractors to stop them from taking on projects that only include framing or carpentry. The final class is C, or Specialty Contractors. These licenses are for construction work that requires special skill or whose principal contracting business involves the use of specialized building trades or crafts. Examples from this class include C10 electrical contractors, C20 HVAC contractors, C27 landscaping contractors, C33 plumbing contractors, C39 roofing contractors, C46 solar contractors, and C53 swimming pool contractors, just to name a few. There are also 30 limited specialty classes under the C61 classification. These include the C61/D49 Tree Services Limited class. More than 209,000 contractors hold a C license in California.
Here are the 2 forms you will need. On the left is the license application. On the right is the certification of work experience. You can get these forms on the CSLB website. There There is your bonus link on the left side of the page, so be sure to download this presentation. We will give you a closer look at the different sections of these forms in a little later. Okay. Now let's break down the steps of application process. First, identify who will be the qualifier for your license. That person will be responsible for exercising direct supervision and control of the company. If you are using an RME or responsible managing employee as your qualifier, determine if he or she can qualify for an exam waiver. Be aware of companies you pay to connect you with a licensed qualifier. In some cases, these qualifiers are on a different part of the state and cannot exercise the direct supervision needed, or they aren't willing, or maybe even don't understand their role as a qualifier. Next, make sure you complete the correct application. There are two options. One, application for original contractor license, or two, application for original contractor license examination waiver 7065. We have got links to both at the bottom of the page.
The next step is determining your company name. Take a look at the application for examples. Some things to keep in mind. Your name cannot be misleading or imply that you qualify for a license classification other than what you are getting. For example, if you're going to apply for a C36 plumbing license, you cannot have company name of John Smith Plumbing Construction Heating and Drywall. Corporate and LLC names must match exactly the name registered with the California Secretary of State's office. The names of everyone on your Secretary of State registration must be listed on your CSLB application. You can also use what's called the DBA, which stands for Doing Business As. The main thing to remember here is the DBA name cannot be misleading, and you must use that name in all advertising and on all of your contracts. Next, you'll want to get together your certifications to support your work experience. You should do this even if you apply for an exam waiver. Feel free to use multiple pages if necessary. Next, be sure to note if you are a military veteran. Some of your military service may be used to meet your 4 years of experience qualifications. Also, your application may be expedited through our Military Application Assistance Program. We mentioned that a few minutes ago. There is a bonus link at the bottom of the screen for more information on that program. To participate, you must have had an honorable discharge. Be sure to include a copy of your military DD-214 paperwork showing your honorable discharge with your application. The next couple of items are basic but very important. You're going to want to proofread for any missing information. Make sure you have provided an answer to all necessary fields. Second, don't forget to sign and date your application before mailing it in. Finally, determine if you need a special accommodation to take your exam. If you do, complete a request form and submit it with your application. We'll talk about the use of a translator a little later.
Next is a closer look at our fingerprint requirements, which are used for a criminal background check. This is a list of those who must submit a full set of fingerprints to CSLB, depending on the type of business entity. All applicants, each corporate officer, each partner, each owner, the responsible managing employee, all home improvement salespersons. If you are in California, you must submit fingerprints electronically with what's called live scan. You can get an updated list of the live scan locations around California, broken down by county, on the Attorney General's website. We have got the link here, or you can simply go to the Attorney General website and search for live scan. You will also see we have a bonus link at the bottom of the screen to the fingerprint information page on our CSLB website. If you are out of a state, it's going to be tough for you to get us your fingerprints. That's because you must submit hard copies of them the old-fashioned way. Those take anywhere between 3 and 6 months for the FBI and Department of Justice to process. When things settle down with COVID-19, you might want to consider traveling to California to get your electronic live scan done here.
So what happens if you have any criminal convictions? CSLB may deny your license for the following reasons. First, if your conviction is substantially related to the duties, functions, and qualifications of a contractor. Also, if your conviction involves fraud or a violent crime. There are other factors CSLB also considers. They are the nature and severity of a crime, the amount of time that has passed since a conviction, and any evidence of rehabilitation that you submit to CSLB. CSLB evaluates felony criminal convictions within 7 years of the application date. So for applications filed this year, we would look back to 2013. For misdemeanor criminal convictions, we would look back 3 years from the application date, back to 2017. That's unless the convictions are for a violent felony, certain sexual crimes, or financial crimes related to construction. CSLB denies only 1% of the total applications we receive based on criminal convictions. You'll also note that the bonus link to our fingerprint information page.
Okay, along with the education credits we talked about earlier, this next section is probably the most important of the entire workshop and the part of the application that causes the most headaches for applicants. It is how you demonstrate your work experience on your application. Remember, the license qualifier needs 4 years or 48 months of experience within the past 10 years in the classification for which he or she is applying. That means at least 4 years of experience since 2010. The experience must be at least no less than a journeyman level or as a foreman, supervising employee, contractor, or owner builder. A journeyman is defined as an experienced worker who is fully qualified as opposed to a trainee and can perform trade without supervision, or one who has completed an apprenticeship program.
There's a limited amount of space on the application to show your certified work experience, so feel free to use additional pages if needed and simply attach at the end of the work experience form. Use as many certifications of work experience forms as you need to prove the required 4 years of experience within the last 10 years. Use a different form for each certifier. Remember to be as accurate as possible. Make sure that the person that is certifying your work describes the actual work that you performed and the dates in which you performed them. We will now be providing some examples of both good and unacceptable descriptions to demonstrate work experience. Do not copy and paste this information directly into your application. These are just examples.
At the top of this chart is the classification and the type of experience you are trying to demonstrate. This first example is journey person experience. The overall theme we will keep repeating is the more specific the description, the better. Note, the work experience form should be completed by your certifier, someone who has knowledge and observed your work experience for the classification you are applying for. That person does not have to be a licensed contractor.
Okay, so our first example is for the Class B general building contractor. The best type of description your certifier would use for journey person experience is to be very specific. Journey person experience must include hands-on work, like this here. Bob performed rough and finish carpentry, concrete forming and pours, roof-out plumbing and electrical, interior exterior painting, and flooring on residential homes. An unacceptable description would be something more generic like this: residential general building trades. For four-person experience, the description must include some hands-on work and/or supervisory work. Here's an example of the best type of description. Bob oversaw other staff at job sites performing rough and finish carpentry, concrete forming and pours, roof-out plumbing and electrical, interior exterior painting, and flooring on residential homes. Again, an unacceptable description would be something very more generic, something like this: residential general building trades. For supervising employee experience, the description should include an explanation of how you arrived at a supervisor level. An example is, as a construction lead on multiple projects, Bob supervised rough and finish carpentry, concrete forming and pours, roof out plumbing and electrical, interior exterior painting, and flooring on residential homes. Again, something unacceptable would be something more generic like this. Residential general building trades. For out-of-state contractors' experience, the description must include examples of work done that were either out of the state, military, on federal lands, or done for a government entity. Applicants can qualify as a journey person, a foreperson, or a supervising employee. A tip: please be specific about your duties and your employment circumstances. Our next example is for the C27 landscaping contractor. First, for experience at the journeyman level. The best type of description your certifier would use would be something like this. Jane performed landscape construction maintenance and installation of sprinklers, ground plants, low voltage lighting, ornamental yard art, concrete mow strips and pathways, and tree pruning. An unacceptable description would be something like this. Gardening, yard maintenance, and planting. For a C27 landscaping contractor, the best work experience description for a foreperson would be something like this. Jane oversaw other staff at job sites performing landscape construction, maintenance and installation of sprinklers, ground plants, low voltage lighting, ornamental yard art, concrete mow strips and pathways, and tree pruning. An unacceptable description again would be something like gardening, yard maintenance, planting. For a C27 supervising employee, the description should include an explanation of how you arrived at the supervisor level. The best description would be, as a construction lead on multiple projects, Jane supervised landscape construction, maintenance, and installation of sprinklers, ground plants, low voltage lighting, ornamental yard art, concrete mow strips and pathways, and tree pruning. Unacceptable here for the supervising employee would be something like this. Gardening, yard maintenance, and planting. Finally, for our out-of-state contractors, the same guidance that we showed you for general building contractors applies. Be sure to include examples of your out-of-state work, as well as for the military, work done on federal lands, or for a government entity. Be sure to be specific when you describe your duties and employment circumstances. By law, CSLB must randomly review and verify all the information provided on at least 3% of the applications that we receive. The next 3 slides run down acceptable documentation you can use to support your work experience in the event that your application is selected and you are asked to provide additional documentation. The supporting documentation should not be mailed in with your application. You only need to provide this information if it's requested from a CSLB staff member. On the lower right of your screen, you'll see a link in the publication on our website, along with additional information on experience documentation. If you look at the chart, you can see that the first column is for documents you can use if you were employed by a licensed contractor. The second column is for document experience if you've been self-employed. The third column is for documentation you will need if you're applying for a Class B general building contractor license and need to use your own owner-builder experience to meet that experience requirement. Here's the next page of acceptable documentation. Again, you can click on the link to view and print this publication. Here is the final page of acceptable documentation. If you do not have this information readily available, you may want to begin to gather it now, just in case you're asked to provide it in the future. Remember, the whole point is that you are trying to demonstrate 4 years of experience within the last 10 years. CSLB staff may contact the certifier of experience or other parties to verify your experience.
One other note, CSLB gets more than 1,000 applications a month. So our application processing staff has seen it all. They have got two pieces of advice. First, don't cut and paste from this presentation. Also, don't try to get around having to take trade tests by applying for multiple subcategories under the C61 limited specialty classification. Okay, that is the content you will need to fill out your application. Before getting into CSLB, double check to make sure you did not miss anything. Be sure to sign and date it as well. And don't forget to include the all-important $330 application fee. You will pay the $200 initial licensing fee after you pass your exam or exams. Then put your application packet in the mail to CSLB, hand delivered to one of our public counters, or hand delivered to one of our public counters. We have got a bonus link at bottom of the screen with our office locations.
Now we're going to be discussing the parts of the application. We have gone through the information you'll need to include, but here's a closer look at the application itself so you can see where it goes exactly. This is section 1, and this is where you're going to list your business name. Remember, when selecting a business name, make sure the name that you have selected is compatible with the classification and the entity that you are applying for, and that it's not misleading. If your business is a corporation or an LLC, you will need to make sure that the names you provide in this section match exactly the business name that you have registered with the Secretary of State. In line number 2 is where you're going to indicate what classification you're applying for. The mailing address and phone number that you list here on line 3A and 3C will be made public on CSLB's website once you are licensed. Here is part 2. In section 2, you will select your business entity. If you are applying for a corporation or an LLC, you will need to provide your registration number provided to you by the Secretary of State in this section here. Make sure to pay extra attention to the instructions in this section pertaining to the entity for which you are applying. Section number 3 is where you will list the qualifiers information. Remember, the qualifier is a person that meets the experience requirements and will be responsible for the direct supervision and control of your construction operations. The qualifier will be the person taking the exams. On line 6, you will list any previous or current license numbers that you've held. You will also need to list the percentage of the new business owned by the qualifier. For example, if you are the only person that will be listed on the license, you would enter 100%. On line number 7, you will need to indicate what position will be held by the qualifier. Each entity has different personnel requirements. You will need to make sure that you have listed all positions, depending on the entity that you are selecting. You can find more information on this on pages 2 through 4 of the application instructions. Line number 8 is where you will sign and date your application. Section number 4 is where you will list the personnel information for all remaining personnel that will be listed on the license. For example, if you are applying for a corporation, you will need to indicate who will be the responsible managing officer or employee, the president, the secretary, and treasurer. Again, more information can be found on page 4 of the application instructions. If you will have more than 4 people on your license, you can make additional copies of this page and include it with your application. For corporations and LLCs, you'll want to make sure that all personnel that are listed with the Secretary of State are listed in this section as well. All personnel that will be listed on the license must sign the application here in this section, section 4. Excuse me. Section number 5 is just it's a series of yes and no questions, so we're not going to cover those here. Section 6, you may be granted credit towards your 4-year experience requirement based on your education. Question number 17 asks if you have completed an educational or apprenticeship program. You will need to submit official sealed transcripts if you would like to be considered for this credit. If you attended formal training or have participated in an apprenticeship program, you will need to provide a certificate of completion. Now, you want to get the sealed transcript sent to you, then include it with your application packet. Do not have the program send the transcript directly to CSLB because you don't want to take the chance that we're not able to match it up with your application. So it's best to get it sent to you, sealed, do not open it, and then just send it in with your application packet. That way we can match it up with your application. CSLB may grant you up to 3 years of credit based on your education. This credit is not on a year-to-year basis, meaning if you have a 2-year college degree, you won't necessarily be granted 2 years of credit towards the experience requirement. You may qualify for this credit regardless of when you completed your education. The 10-year time frame does not apply to education. You may also apply for this credit even if your education was received out of the country. If your degree is in any other language other than English, it will need to be translated. Now we're going to discuss the certification of work experience. Part 1 will be filled out by you, the applicant. Here, you will list the information for your employer where you gained your experience. If you were self-employed when you gained your experience, please make sure you mark this box here in line number 2. If you are applying for a B general construction license and will be using experience obtained while working on your own property, make sure to mark the box in line number 4. Part 2 of the certification of work experience must be filled out by the certifier, the person that you choose to certify your work experience. In this section, the certifier must include the dates in which you obtained the experience. They must also select if you were working on a part-time or a full-time basis. Keep in mind, if you were working on a part-time basis, you will receive 50% of credit for that time, which means you will need to provide 8 years of experience within the last 10 years to meet the 4-year requirement. On line number 6, your certifier will need to list the duties that you performed or supervised that are considered critical for the classification that you are applying for. You can read a description of critical duties in CSLB's description of classification booklets available on our website. Do not copy and paste the description from the booklet. This is only to give you an idea of what CSLB considers critical duties for each classification. Your certifier should complete this section in their own words and be as complete and accurate as possible. The final part of the work experience certificate is also to be completed by your certifier. They need to list their relationship to you and provide that contact information. Lastly, they will need to sign and date the certification. The next form we will discuss is the Owner Builder B General Building Construction Project Experience form. This form only needs to be completed if you are applying for the B General Construction License and you want to receive experience credit for working on projects on your own property. A separate form is required for each project on the property. The experience must be verifiable through building permits, final inspections, or other documentation. You will need to list the building permit number on line number 6. On line number 7, you will need to provide the scope of the project. In boxes 8 through 10, you will need to provide more detailed information about the project. Question number 11 asks if other general construction contractors worked on the project and what trades they performed. Remember, this information should be as complete and accurate as possible.
With all the information Anna just covered, this is a good time to remind you that we are recording this workshop. We will post a video on our YouTube channel, so you can go back and rewatch in case there is anything you missed. Okay, so you have got your application submitted. How do you check the status of the application? Here are 2 resources. First is the secure check. You will need your application fee number and contractor PIN number to get an update. We will send you that information after we receive and accept and post your completed application. The second way to check is to look online at our processing times. Each week, we update our website with the date we receive the paperwork for a specific process. So look for the date being worked on and know that date shown is after the date we likely received your paperwork. It's likely we are busy working on your application. So if the date is after that, we most likely have it and busy working on it. As you can imagine, CSLB receives hundreds, if not thousands of documents every day, and we process them in the order they are received. So be sure to take extra time getting the application right so we don't have to send it back to you to correct and then have to start the process again. When your application has been accepted, CSLB will send you a notice to appear for examination and a study guide. You should get your exam notice at least 3 weeks before your exam date. With our test center reopened, which may have to re-shut down after last night's new guidelines, we added an additional session in the late afternoon to early evening to help us catch up with 3 months we were closed. We have got 7 test centers around California. We would encourage you to take your exams at the centers closest to you. Those centers are from north to south: Sacramento, San Jose, Fresno, Oxnard, San Bernardino, Norwalk, and San Diego.
If you're an applicant whose first language isn't English and you don't feel confident taking your exams in English, we do allow you to use a translator. The translator who you provide simply reads your exam questions. Question number 16 on the application asks if you need to use a translator to complete the examination. The translator must be approved by CSLB in advance, so you cannot just show up on the day of your examination to the test center with somebody to translate the exam for you. When you get an exam date, make sure you do not miss it. If you fail to appear for your exam, you will have to pay a non-refundable $60 fee to reschedule. The fee may be waived once if documented evidence of a medical emergency or other circumstance beyond your control. Also, we have study guides available for each of our exams. Included in each study guide, you will find a list of sections and topics covered by each exam. They also include sample questions, how each section of the exam is weighted, and recommended resources that you can use to prepare for the examination beginning now. These study guides are available online on our website. There's a bonus link to them on the bottom of the screen.
Here is a quick look at 2 of those study exams. The first is the law and business exam, which all qualifiers must take, no matter which license classification, including the D series limited classes. You can see the guide contains a breakdown of examination topics, some test strategies, sample questions, and resources that were used to help create the exam. You will see the same format on the B General Building study guide. We would recommend that you really pay attention to the exam content here, especially how we have broken down what percentage of questions there will be on each of the 5 topics on the exam. You will also note on the lower right of both of these slides, you will see bonus links to the actual study guide, as well as a link to the complete list of study guides.
We do have COVID-19 procedures in place for the test centers. Here they are. Plan to arrive at least 15 minutes early for your exam. Give yourself extra time to get checked in. You must wear a face mask or other face covering. If you appear ill, you will have to reschedule your exam for at least 5 days later at no additional charge. And you will not be admitted into the test center more than 15 minutes prior to your exam time. We've also produced a short what to expect on your test day video that you can watch on our YouTube channel. The link is at the bottom of your screen.
You will take your exam on a touchscreen computer. Before starting, you will see an on-screen tutorial that will take you through the process. The exam itself consists of multiple choice questions. You will also see a space on each question where you can, if you want, submit a comment about the question. You will get 3.5 hours to complete each exam. Don't arrive late, or that may reduce the amount of time you get to complete your exam. You will get your results at the end of the exam. If you don't pass the exam, you will not be allowed to review the questions you missed, but you will get a statement showing how you did on each section of the exam. You can reschedule the exam as many times as you need to within the 18-month period, as long as you pay the non-transferable $60 rescheduling fee each time.
Next slide, please. After you pass your exams, what happens next? First, you'll need to pay $200 for your initial licensing fee, which will be good for 2 years. You'll also need to complete an online asbestos open book exam. Plus, you'll need to file your required $15,000 contractor's surety bond and possibly some other bonds depending on what type of business entity you have selected. You'll need to get your required insurance policy. If you have employees, you'll need to get workers' compensation insurance. If you're going to be an LLC, you'll also need liability insurance. See our website for more information. Please note that your insurance company or broker can submit your insurance information to CSLB directly on our website. If you don't have employees, you must file a workers' compensation exemption with CSLB, and you can do that online as well.
In about 5 to 10 business days, CSLB will send you a wall certificate and plastic pocket license card. Display the wall certificate in your main office or chief place of business. Carry your pocket card with you, especially in situations where you're going to solicit business, talk to potential customers, or sign contracts. We encourage consumers to ask you to see your pocket license. If you're going to have salesperson working for you, be sure to get them registered as a home improvement salesperson with CSLB. Check our website for more on how to do that. Your license will be good for 2 years. It will expire on the last day of the month when it was issued. For example, a license issued today, December 4, 2020, will expire on December 30th, 2022. Be sure to put that expiration date on your calendar, in your phone, anywhere you need so you won't forget it. CSLB will send you a renewal notice in the mail approximately 60 days before it expires, but ultimately it is your responsibility to renew your license on time.
Here are a couple of other important deadlines that you want to keep in mind. First, you want to notify CSLB within 30 days if you move or change your business address. Your renewal notice will be sent to the address of record that we've got on file. If you're not there anymore, you're probably not going to receive it. Plus, the Postal Service will not forward state government mail. Finally, notify CSLB within 30 days of all changes to your personnel on your license, especially when it involves the qualifier of the license.
Once you get your license and get to work, you might want to hire someone as a salesperson to solicit, sell, negotiate home improvement contracts on your behalf outside of your place of business. These people are called home improvement salespersons, or HIS. Without an HIS, the official personnel of record on a license are the only ones that can solicit, sell, negotiate, or execute a contract. That include individual contractors, licensed qualifiers, partners, corporations officers, and LLC responsible managing officers, members, managers, or employees. A home improvement salesperson can work for more than one contractor. The license must notify CSLB in writing when they either associate or disassociate a home improvement salesperson with their license.
There are a couple of exceptions to note. First are those who only schedule appointments for contractors or a registered HIS, and a bona fide service and repair people. These are the folks that you call out for repairs, including things like air conditioning, heating, and plumbing. But those service and repair people are limited to the work that was initially requested by the buyer or the homeowner. For example, if your AC goes out and you call the HVAC company to come out, the service person does not have to be a registered salesperson. But if they go beyond the repair itself and then they sell you a new HVAC system, then they should be a registered HIS or salesperson. Also, don't employ any unregistered salesperson. That subjects you to administrative discipline, and the salesperson might get a citation as well, or possibly even a criminal misdemeanor. We've got a bonus link at the bottom of this page if you want to look at the actual code section of law. Okay, that is our presentation. Now it's time for us to take your questions. Okay, so we have some questions here. First question, under qualifying experience, who or what is a qualifier for the license? Oh, do you want to take that one? What is a qualifier?
What was the question?
Who is a qualifier? What does a qualifier mean on a license application?
Okay. Qualifier is the person who's responsible for day-to-day operations, is the person who's on site, observing the work, responsible for the work, is the person who has the experience that will take the exams to become the qualifier.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. It says, how about a BS in civil engineering? So we're not going to be able to give you very much more information on your experience, education, as far as how that relates to your experience. We can show you the slide again. Maybe we could put the slide up. The slide will show you, give you an idea of how much experience credit you may receive. It's not on a year-to-year basis. So not because you have a 4-year in civil engineering, does that mean you're going to qualify for the full 3 years of experience credit? It's on a year-to-year, it's not on a year-to-year basis. But this more or less just gives you an idea here. Bachelor of Science, the amount of credit you would qualify for would be 36. Remember, 36 months is the maximum you'll be able to receive. Says, hi there, is it possible to send transcripts directly to CSLB, or do they need to have it sent along with the application? Remember that we want it to be sent with the application only because if you send it directly to CSLB, we may not be able to match it up to your application. So the best thing that you can do is have it mailed to you, and then send it in sealed. Don't open it. You're going to want to send it in sealed with your application. What if you're working with a contractor side by side? I'm assuming you mean, can you get experience for working with a contractor side by side? Yes, so we went over this about how if you're working with a contractor side by side and you are gaining experience, that does qualify as experience towards your license. If I am going to get licenses for multiple specific trades, do I need to take the law and business exam every time or just the first one? You want to answer that one, folks? It says if he's going for multiple trades, how many times does he have to take the law and business?
The law exam you only take once.
Mm-hmm.
But the trade exam for each classification, it has its own trade, but the law is only once.
For example, if you want to begin with one trade, then you would let us know at the beginning what trade that is. But yes, you can apply for multiple trades. Once you have your license, you can continue to apply for additional classifications. But like Fode mentioned, you wouldn't have to take the business and law again, just the trade. Next question says, how many credits do you get? Again, with the credit for the education, you're going to want to refer to the slide that's up now on our screen. Okay, it says, how many credits do you get if you have a Bachelor of Architecture? So again, for a bachelor degree, the most you could get would be 36 months. But we wouldn't be able to tell you that unless you actually had the transcript in front of us. And so once we receive your transcripts, it's assigned to a technician, they will let you know.